In assisted living and personal care homes, they are not able by regulation to quote unquote restrain somebody. Individuals who have memory loss can still read, and they are highly motivated, so they can read the sign that says, hey, if you hold this door down for 15 seconds, it will release. But quite honestly, it is very difficult to protect against what we call an elopement.
Hello out there. Welcome back to the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast. My name is Rob. I will be your host for this episode. This week, we're talking about the differences in care between nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and personal care homes. And I know that assisted living facilities and personal care homes are called different things in different states because they're regulated differently from state to state. But in general, kind of who the residents are that are in these places and what services you can expect to receive in them. But we're not doing that alone. We have the fantastic Kayla Meek, who's gonna join us in a minute to talk about these issues. But before we get into that, it is now time for the nursing home regulation question of the week. And again, another week, another chance to win a Nursing Home Abuse Podcast coffee mug. It is the perfect way to ingest your morning coffee. Well, how do you win? That's a good question. As always, it's nearly impossible. It is a octagonal maze to win this mug, but good luck to you. So in order to win, or have a chance to win, I should say, legally, go to our TikTok, which is @JusticeForResidents, and find the video with a thumbnail of an anchovy. So find the thumbnail. It's got a little salty fish on it, and click on it and leave in the comments your answer and your own favorite pizza topping. So @JusticeForResidents, find the anchovy thumbnail, comment your answer as well as your favorite pizza topping. The question of the week is posted every Monday, and that's the one to comment on. So stay tuned. Don't miss out. Winners announced every Sunday on TikTok and on schenkfirm.com. The prize will ship to the lucky winner at the end of the month. All right. Difficulty level this week, folks, I think is about easy. Easy to very easy. So if you get this right, just go on about your day. Under 42 CFR 483.50B2, when are radiology services required to be provided by the nursing home? Is it A, as requested by the resident, B, as ordered by the facility's director of nursing, or C, as ordered by a physician, PA, NP, or clinical nurse specialist? And that answer is, of course, C. The nursing home is required to get radiological services if ordered by the physician. All right, everybody, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. As I mentioned, we're talking all about the level of care provided at nursing homes versus assisted living and personal care homes. But we're not doing that alone. We have the absolutely fantastic Kayla Meek to discuss that with us. Kayla Meek is the owner of Athene Consulting, a senior living nurse consulting group focused on risk management, fractional leadership, and legal nurse consulting. Prior to Athene, Kayla had several vice president positions throughout her 13 years of experience in various aging services industries, including independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Within her roles, Kayla has advocated for clinical excellence, holistic health, and quality of life for older adults through the creation of numerous nationally implemented wellness programs. We're so lucky to have her today. Kayla, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
I had a conversation, it's probably been at least a couple of years now, with Richard Mollett on the idea of how personal care homes and assisted living facilities, whatever they're referred to as in the different states, but that's what they are in Georgia. It's kind of like the Wild West. There's not federal oversight of these places. It's state by state, right? And I think, at least in my experience, that's what leads to at least some of the confusion about what happens at these places. So this is kind of my opening salvo is what is in general the difference between a nursing home and an assisted living facility or personal care home? Like, what level of care are you getting in these places?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'll probably be a little bit long-winded on that one, if that's okay, because it's kind of hefty.
Yeah, go for it.
For personal care homes and assisted living and nursing homes, think of it kind of like a tier of service providers. And you start with personal care homes kind of at the bottom. They're typically smaller, they're more home-like. Think of it like having a private or a shared room. Typically, you're right around 25 quote unquote beds or less. They have differing regulations depending on how many individuals can live there. Oftentimes, they're family owned, locally operated. I kind of think of them as more like a mom and pop shop. You can build that relationship with the in-house team. They're really probably best suited for individuals who are largely independent, but may need some occasional support with activities of daily living, like dressing, grooming, showering, toileting, meal preparation, housekeeping. And really, you can't do much medical services in a personal care home outside of basic first aid and some medication assistance. They normally don't have any licensed medical professionals on staff, and any nursing services would need to be provided by an external provider like home health or hospice. And then if you kind of go up the tier a little bit, you're looking at an assisted living facility, which is most often larger than a personal care home. It's still residential, it's very home-like. Typically, the suites are bigger. So if that's a pertinent factor in the decision, you have more of like an apartment style room. Assisted living services can accommodate a little bit of a higher level of care than maybe some personal care homes, but they're still lower than nursing homes. Services typically include things like, again, activities of daily living, dressing, grooming, showering, toileting. They may be able to provide some more significant support, though. Maybe if someone were towards the end of their disease process, needing a specific like memory care quote unquote unit or neighborhood, they can provide some more kind of stringent oversight with medication assistance, because they do have a regulation that requires them to have at least some level of nursing oversight or support. And that typically is in like a leadership position, like a director of nursing. So I would say of the three, personal care homes and assisted living are probably the most commonly associated. And then you jump to nursing homes, which is kind of a whole different beast. The environment's definitely more clinical. I would say it resembles, in most cases, a hospital. They strive, although they do strive for a more home-like feel in a lot of places. Typically, the patient profile is someone who needs more serious chronic medical attention. They have a chronic condition or disability. They are federally regulated, and they have to be able to support 24/7 medical supervision, skilled nursing care. And in addition to nursing support, they also have typically some element of supportive rehabilitation, like PT, which is physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy on site. And you can receive those services at a higher rate than what you would see at like a assisted living or personal care home, where you would typically only get visits by a visiting home health that could do, 1 to 2 times of PT physical therapy a week. So
what is the typical, you mentioned this is a great word. I don't think I've heard this before, but a patient profile. Like, what is the patient profile for personal care home versus assisted living?
Yeah, I would say probably in personal care home, the best suited resident is someone who's largely independent. They may need some occasional support. They might be not really successful at doing those more, we call them independent activities of daily living, the bigger things like meal prep. They no longer drive or need some assistance going to appointments. They need some housekeeping assistance, laundry assistance. But they really prefer kind of a more intimate, smaller setting is best suited for someone with in personal care homes. Definitely not anyone who has a skilled need like a colostomy bag service or anything that would require general oversight of a nurse. In assisted living, it's similar, but I think they can accommodate just a little bit more. They can accommodate, of course, the activities of of daily living. They can accommodate meal prep. That's their bread and butter, right? That's what they're best suited for. But then it kind of just takes it up a little notch with the level of supervision that's provided. So someone who might have a more complicated medication or an injection, definitely those individuals who are diabetic that need some routine monitoring of blood glucose. There are some levels of supportive services that can be provided in assisted living for individuals who have skilled needs, but it's very specific. Typically, what we see in assisted living is that the on-site staff don't perform those skilled services, something like a colostomy wafer change, whereas they may partner with a home health care provider to really do those services. Now, when you get into the patient profile of skilled nursing, all of those services are provided in-house by in-house staff whenever is needed. So say, for example, you have a resident in assisted living who's maybe there towards the end of their disease process with memory loss, but they do have that colostomy bag and they're removing it. They wouldn't be best suited for assisted living because assisted living doesn't have 24/7 skilled staff to replace it, right? That person may be better suited for a nursing environment that can have those medical professionals to attend to those needs as needed when needed.
I think that is, at least in my experience, a big point of confusion for the public and for the people that call my office. It's
Mm-hmm.
they even refer to the assisted living facility or the personal care home as a nursing home, thinking that there are
Absolutely.
nurses on staff, things like that. Um, so that I mean that there's in my opinion, there should be a lot more education to the public about what,
Oh,
as you mentioned, what these places are actually allowed to do, which is not very much in terms of nursing or medical. Um,
I would 1000% agree. It causes great confusion even within the aging services industry. People who work at personal care homes may not understand the differences in assisted living and personal care homes. And the same thing for nursing. You even see that sometimes with regulators, the individuals who are charged with holding the facilities accountable for the state regulations. In some states, they regulate both nursing homes and assisted living, and they get confused between the two. And it is very difficult in different states because they are very similar, but it's important to be educated on where to properly place an individual so that they receive the care services that will support the trajectory of their healing.
If you had a family sitting in front of you and they were trying to decide what level of care their loved one needs, like what, how would you help guide them along to select personal care home versus assisted living versus nursing home?
Yeah, I say it is so very difficult because it's not really apples to apples with a lot of these places. And you can't get a lot of the information you need unless you either pick up the phone and call somebody or you go and physically take a tour of these places. When you're looking at a skilled facility, I think that's a little bit easier to be an informed consumer. Researching for skilled, because they're federally funded, they have all of their information is open source, right? You can go to carecompare.com, you can pull up their quality metrics for their falls percentages, their pressure injury percentages. But because personal care homes and assisted living facilities are private pay, they're not federally funded, they're not held to the same standard for producing that information to the public. Really, the only information that the public can get about a personal care home or an assisted living facility is their surveys. And you can go on and you can read their survey history, but surveys are open to interpretation too. It's very difficult to get a feel of what a facility might be like without actually, setting your feet in the community to get that idea. I always advocate for this service. There are some really great companies, and that's all they do is suggest placement for residents. And they're a free service to families. What they do is they take intake information from a family member who may be struggling to find somewhere, and they say, what's most important to you? What are the needs of your loved one? What's your price point, your budget for monthly care services? And then they do all the research, and they help to pull together a presentation to families to say, these are the top 3 places I would recommend. Could I schedule some tours for you, make you some referrals? And then it really takes the stress off of the family because they're already probably in a compromised state of mind dealing with a loved one who is having some issues or struggles with their health. And then at that point, it kind of takes the brunt of the work off the family. You have a person who can help guide you, and it's a free service. It's really hard to say no to.
In a nursing home, the nursing process, when there's a new admit, typically goes like this. You're admitted, there's a comprehensive head to toe assessment, then there's a comprehensive care plan. The care plan is put in place. Everybody knows what they're doing in terms of the clinical interventions for the resident, and that gets revised whenever there's a significant change or at regular intervals. Tell me about that process, or a similar process, because I guess we can't technically call it nursing,
Sure.
but what is the process of evaluation and assessment and planning in an assisted living facility?
Same, but different. It's mostly how it goes. I think in skilled, the on-site staff don't necessarily get as much time to prepare for the oncoming admission. Typically, admissions happen same day in a skilled facility. They get a referral from a discharge planner at a hospital. The resident, they comb through their medical record. They look for some red flags to see, should they admit, should they not admit. They choose to admit, and then at that point, they get them on site. They can see them head to toe and move forward with their assessment and care planning process. I think in the personal care home and assisted living process, it can be a little bit more in depth on the front end, which is really nice and helpful because personal care homes and assisted living facilities are not as equipped to deal with difficult cases. So there's a little bit more of a runway. In personal care homes and assisted living, primarily residents move in from either the home or another assisted living or personal care home. And so what a nurse or the director of nursing or the individual who's charged with overseeing the care services will typically do is they'll make an appointment with the family to come out to the home and do an in-person assessment. It's really great because they can see what they're like in their home-like environment. What sort of medical devices do they have there? Do they see that they have a pill reminder box? And that helps to prompt them for questions. It's a little bit more personalized. And then the family can then start that relationship building with the leadership team at the personal care home or the assisted living. They complete their assessment. They make a decision on if that person is applicable for admission. They should have their assessment fully completed before the resident moves in. That's a typical regulation of assisted living facilities. They also have to have a review by a provider, like a primary care physician, nurse practitioner. They have to fill out a state required form, check some boxes that in the medical provider's opinion, the person is applicable and safe to say in that level of care. They then move forward with creating the care plan, which is the instruction sheet for how do you properly care for the person. Care plans are the end all be all of care services and senior living. If it's not in the care plan, then the care providers don't know what to do or how to implement it. They also can't chart on it. And then typically what a family should expect is routine communication from their personal care home or their assisted living. They should hear from them every time that there's a quote unquote incident. Mom or dad falls, grandma, grandpa leaves the facility unattended. Those should prompt communications. They should prompt a reassessment. It should prompt a care plan meeting. And so they should really be working hand in hand as partners to really develop that plan of care.
I think that sometimes there is a lot of the ball being dropped between that initial physician assessment that says you are qualified or not qualified for assisted living and the actual admit. So in my experience, what I mean by that is that a physician might sign off and that's all the assisted living facility needs in their mind. But in reality, that's
Mm-hmm.
not true. Like, I mean, first of all, the physician can mess up, and
Sure.
the buck stops with the personal care home or the assisted living facility, meaning that
Mm-hmm.
even if somebody says this person's good, you still have to do an evaluation. And I find that sometimes
1,000%.
it's people are getting admitted to these places that still don't qualify. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the
Mm-hmm.
qualifications in the regs is the ability to basically to be able to ambulate and react if there's an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially in like memory care units, that might not be the case. Like the individual might not be mobile. Like even in a wheelchair, they couldn't move themselves. And even if you said there's a fire, let's get out of here, they wouldn't be able to understand how to get out or know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a major problem in these places at the admission process.
I would 1,000% agree. I think that probably is a whole new podcast topic, right? Is the
Yeah.
downfall of the partnership of the family and the physicians group. Not that they don't want to do the right thing, and not that it's not in their best interest, and they have kind of the same goals as a family. It's just a little bit difficult in today's healthcare environment to get the time with the provider and for the provider to really have that intimate knowledge of the potential resident to be able to accurately complete the form. A lot of the questions require conversation and really in-depth investigation, and a provider just can't, quite frankly, complete the entirety of the form accurately unless they've really sat down and have built that relationship with the resident.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier private pay versus, I guess, Medicaid is probably the primary payer in nursing homes. But what are the costs if a family wanted to move their loved one into an assisted living or a personal care home?
Sure, sure. So I think personal care homes are definitely a little bit more economical of the choice of the three. They're primarily private pay, although some might accept some Medicaid waiver or veterans benefit. I would say they're probably in the ballpark between $2,000 to $4,000 monthly. Whereas then you go up your tier again to your assisted living, which is also private pay, but you find that a lot of assisted living facilities will accept long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance has nothing to do with Medicare, Medicaid. It's a private insurance provider that typically someone has paid into for many, many years. They are often in the ballpark of 3,500 to maybe up to 6,000 a month. I think one thing to really keep in mind when you're looking at assisted living facilities is that there's two kind of price points in assisted living facilities. Some may advertise that they're quote unquote all inclusive. All inclusive means one price for the whole month for everything you need here, which includes meals, housekeeping, care, all of it. Whereas some assisted living facilities will break it down into two major price points. They'll say you have a base fee, which is the same month over month for the entirety of the year. And then you have a care fee. The care fee is based off of the needs of the resident and can increase as the care increases. That's a little bit scary to somebody who really needs pricing stability and is planning finances, into the future. So it's ideal to find a facility that really, if that's of importance, to find somewhere that is all-inclusive pricing. And then also one thing I always tell people to keep in mind as far as pricing points for assisted living is it is very industry standard for them to have a pricing increase each year, typically somewhere between 3 and 5% year over year. Although when we were in the crux of COVID, you could see pricing increases up to 10% year over year. And that was because of staffing challenges, costs of the PPE was really weighing heavily on the operator. And unfortunately, the operator's cost is passed down to the resident costs. And then you have skilled. Nursing homes are heavily regulated by both the state and federal regulations. And so they receive federal reimbursements for Medicare, Medicaid. Medicare may pay for some short-term stays after hospitalization, but for a very limited time. There's a lot of rules around insurance reimbursement, the time frame in which they're willing to pay. Typically, you see that they will pay for less than 30 days. Then after your short-term stay, if you're applicable because of your financial status, Medicaid can cover the cost of long-term care for qualifying individuals dependent on assets. And man, that would probably be another really good podcast topic because it gets very complicated in how you spend down and what constitutes an asset. Is it land? Is it liquid funds? But if an individual doesn't qualify for Medicaid and they do need some long-term skilled services, it unfortunately transfers to private pay, and also long-term care can be accepted as well. Those price ranges can range anywhere from probably $7,000 a month to upwards to $10,000 a month.
Talk to me about an assisted living facility or personal care home that has a memory care unit. What are the challenges in terms of providing care within the confines of the regulations? But it's somebody that has dementia or Alzheimer's, right? Like I feel like it's a tough situation to be in. It's like, because somebody I feel like that qualifies for a memory care unit in an assisted living facility is on the verge of just going to the nursing home, right? So can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so memory care communities can get very complicated as far as their level of security in which they are able to provide. So in assisted living and personal care homes, they are not able by regulation to quote unquote restrain somebody. They're also obviously regulated by a state fire marshal. So the doors, while they can be a secure unit, they cannot be a locked unit. Secure unit basically means that the doors have an egress on them somewhere around 15 seconds, and they are required to have a sign that says, hold for 15 seconds and the door will release. A lot of individuals who have memory loss can still read, and they are highly motivated persons. So they can read the sign that says, hey, if you hold this door down for 15 seconds, it will release, which poses a risk to ensuring the safety of not only that resident who has opened the door and potentially exited, but for the surrounding residents who have been identified as needing a secure environment. So while a community can provide some safeguards with doors that have delayed release, they can have additional safeguards like wander guards, which provide an additional level of security to the doors. They can provide window limiters, which will reduce the spacing in which a window can open. Typically, it's about 6 inches that they will allow the window to open. I always tell people nothing is foolproof in any environment, and it is just quite simply not legal to restrain a person to a specific space, a bed, a chair, without allowing them free range. So then, unfortunately, these memory care units can get quite large, 30, 40, 50 residents in a single space. When you have 40 individuals who have compromised cognition, yet they are highly motivated and want to return home, and you only have 3 or 4 staff members, those 3 or 4 staff members do have other care services that they have to provide, which pulls them away from others. Maybe they're giving someone a shower, they're passing medications. It's just not a level of one-on-one supervision, which can 1,000% ensure that the general well-being of an individual is known all day at all times. So there's a lot of alarms, tools, resources, wellness being checks, policies that can be put into place. But quite honestly, it is very difficult to protect against what we call an elopement.
Well, Kayla, that was extremely informative. That this episode has just flown by, and I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your knowledge with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Happy to do it anytime. It's been great.
Well, folks, I hope that you found this episode educational. If you have an idea for a topic that you would like for me to talk about, please let me know. If you have an idea for someone that you would like for me to talk to as a guest, please let me know that as well. New episodes of the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast come out every single Monday. Also, be sure to enter to win the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast mug. I think as of today, as I record this, I don't think we've even had any participants. So the chances of you winning, if you participate, at least as of right now, very high. So if you want a fancy pants coffee mug, absolutely free, participate. And with that, folks, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Nursing Home Abuse Podcast. Nothing said on this podcast, either by the host or the guest, should be construed as legal or medical advice, nor is intended to create an attorney-client relationship between the host or their guest and the listener. New episodes for now are available every other Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or on your favorite podcast app, as well as on YouTube and our website, nursinghomeabusepodcast.com. Again, that's nursinghomeabusepodcast.com. See you next time.